guys, my name is Natalie and welcome to Crime Vlogs Weekly. This is my first ever video on this channel, so do bear with me. I'm reading my notes off a paper, so if I'm looking down, that is why. This channel is going to be covering everything from murders to serial killers to missing people. So yeah, I'm very excited to get started and to also shed light on these cases that you might not know about. And so yeah, let's get into it. Just before we start, I thought I'd add in a disclaimer to say that these videos are for educational purposes only. I do not mean to cause any offence to anyone that I mention in these videos, and that any personal opinions are merely my own. TikTok is the latest in social media platforms to take the world by storm, and it has benefited massively by many of us who have spent a lot more time at home and out of work. And there's a lot of dark areas to this platform, and this week we'll be looking at one particular girl who garnered quite a lot of attention through this platform. So the case of Isabella Guzman is one that I was fairly familiar with. I'd seen videos up on TikTok before I actually looked into this case further, not realising what this girl had done, and a lot of people made memes out of it. They made viral videos basically copying her behaviour when she was in the courtroom. And it's crazy to think that people were taking such a serious topic and making it very light-hearted on a social media platform. Some of the videos used Ava Max's Sweet But Psycho song, which in itself is a little bit questionable. It could be easy to make light of this weird behaviour that Isabella portrayed while she was in the courtroom on social media, but in reality, this girl committed a brutal and heartless murder. Back in 2013, 18-year-old Isabella Guzman found herself charged with first-degree murder. Now, considering this girl is widely known on TikTok, there's not a huge amount of information online, very little information on her background, her mother's background. I couldn't actually find any photos of the mother, which was strange. What we know is that she lived with her mother, Yun Mi Hoi, in Aurora, Colorado. Her mother was also living with Isabella's stepfather, Ryan Hoi, at the time. So it seems that Isabella's biological father, Robert Guzman, was in and out of the picture. He obviously didn't live in the home with Isabella. They seemed to have a good relationship, him and his daughter. Robert mentions that Isabella did have a rebellious side when she hit her teenage years, like many teenagers do. I myself was a rebellious teenager once, my brother was. Like, we had those teenage years where we were emotional, we were hormonal. It's kind of normal to argue with your parents and have that sort of rebellious side. All of your emotions are all over the place. You're kind of trying to figure out who you are as a person. But it seems like Isabella didn't really have a good relationship with her mother anyway. Robert Guzman said that their relationship was very strained and that there were multiple occasions where they would argue and where it would get very heated. For Isabella, it seemed like she was holding some form of resentment over her mother, whether this was to do with the relationship, the broken down relationship of her mother and biological father, Robert, we don't know, but she definitely resented her mother. It's been mentioned that she may have had resentment towards her due to their financial situation and that her mother couldn't provide everything that she wanted in her teenage life. It's something that we all sort of learn later on in life when we reach adulthood and we start earning our own money and realise that money doesn't in fact grow on trees. But it seems like Isabella really resented her mother for not earning enough money. I didn't actually find any information about what her mum did. In fact, there's very little information about her mother and her own background, of where she came from, what she did in life. I couldn't find anything about her job. So Isabella and her mother had a very strained relationship, and this only got worse and more severe as Isabella started to bring boys back to the family home. This clearly upset Isabella's mother, and it was going against her wishes in terms of the rules that she had laid down in her family home, such as other parents will do. They will have certain rules for their kids, and that's just the way they want to parent. It's worth mentioning that her parents were Jehovah's Witnesses, but that's something that we'll touch on later in this video. And it looks as if Isabella was doing anything and everything that she could to lash out at her mother and to disrespect her in any way, shape or form. So this all culminated on August 28th, 2013, when Isabella sent her mother a very threatening email with the words "you will pay" within it. This email obviously frightened Isabella's mother, so much so that she asked Robert, Isabella's biological father, to just take her aside and chat to her and say, like, you know, could you try and talk some sense into her and sort of understand where she's coming from. It seems that the relationship between Isabella and her mother was so strained that they couldn't even have a conversation between them, or that she might have tried to have a conversation with her daughter but it wasn't really getting anywhere, and that the threats were just becoming worse. So Robert steps in, and that afternoon of August 28th, Robert sits Isabella down and they talk for about an hour and a half. Basically Robert was saying, like, you know, it's rude to be disrespectful to your parents, you need to sort of be better and do better and to respect your mother and all these things. And he definitely thought that he was getting through to her and that he was helping her see sense. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. On the evening of August 28th, Yun Mi-hoi returned from work at 9:30 and she told Ryan, which is Isabella's stepfather, that she was going to take a shower. And I think she was going to go to bed after the shower, so she heads upstairs. Within moments of the shower turning on, Ryan said there was a load of commotion, a lot of muffled shouting and screaming, and obviously he was very concerned, so he quickly ran up the stairs to see what was going on. And upon reaching the upstairs bathroom, he saw Isabella shut the door in his face. At this point he was trying to get into the bathroom, but Isabella apparently overpowered him and managed to lock the bathroom door. Ryan was pretty helpless, and I think, like many of us would do, he ran back down the stairs, got the nearest phone and dialed 911. Now there's a lot of comments about how Isabella managed to overpower Ryan, who is this older man, and I want to kind of chat about that later, because I think it has a lot to do with adrenaline and the fact that Ryan must have been fairly terrified of Isabella at that point. So as Ryan was desperately trying to seek help by calling the police, Isabella Guzman inflicted the most heartless attack on her own mother. Her mother was 47 years old. Isabella stabbed her 79 times in the face and neck. Just let that sink in. 79 times. Now there's a lot of speculation in the news and the media that this was in fact 151 times, but we do know that the media tends to over sensationalize the truth sometimes, but in the court proceedings it does mention 79 times, so we're going to go with 79 times. At this point Ryan had gone back upstairs and there was a pool of blood forming underneath the bathroom door. Ryan said that the last thing that he heard Yun Mi-hoi say was Jehovah, and then the bathroom door unlocked. It opened, Isabella stepped out and she was blooded. She had the knife still in her hand, which was also blooded, and Ryan stated that Isabella didn't even acknowledge Ryan's presence. She was staring blankly ahead and she just walked straight past him and exited the property. I can't even imagine what Ryan must have been feeling in these moments, to feel helpless that he couldn't get through the bathroom door and that this 18-year-old girl was stabbing her mother to death in such a frenzied attack, and to have left and then Ryan to have to desperately try and revive Yun Mi-hoi, but knowing that she was gone because her blank stare was all that he could see. That must have been such a terrifying and horrific ordeal for anyone to go through. So if you use TikTok and you've seen the videos, or you know, you're aware of the case, then you'll see that the media did capture her court appearance where she's making eyes at the media and she's pulling some bizarre faces. I mean, it's a shame that we're in an age where people will sort of post anything in order to just get a few views, including mimicking the behaviour of a murderer. And at the end of the day, a person lost their life in such an horrific way by their own flesh and blood. I mean, that in itself is horrifying. So according to Isabella, she said that she grew up in an abusive household. Now, I'm not quite sure whether she's referring that abuse to her mother herself, or whether she's referring to Ryan, or whether she's referring to Robert, her biological father, but she said that there was abuse during her teenage years and that this only escalated when she told her parents that she wanted to leave or just not be a Jehovah's Witness anymore at the age of 14. And if her claims are true, then perhaps this abuse was the catalyst that led her to explode in such a fit of rage. However, it seems as though Isabella had been suffering with schizophrenia, according to a doctor. I'm not quite sure if this was her own doctor or a doctor who had been reviewing the case. It seems like she'd been dealing with some highly disturbing delusions for years. It's not clear whether she got help for this or whether her mother sought help for her schizophrenia. It might have been that her mother had no idea the extent of what she was going through mentally. It also seems as though her biological father, Robert Guzman, didn't really have any answers as to why she exploded in this way and decided to take the life of her mother. I think for me the most horrifying element is that Isabella stabbed her mother 79 times in the face and neck area. She didn't go anywhere else. She just focused on the neck and face, which to me just shows how angry she was and that she wanted to direct as much pain and prolong it for as long as possible by just focusing on this area where she could have easily gone for any of her vital organs and maybe ended her life a lot quicker and with less pain, but instead she went on for 79 times around her face and her neck. For me, that says a lot about how Isabella was feeling in the moment towards her mother, and that she was in this blind fit of rage. And you know, 79 times is a lot of times to stab someone, and I can only imagine that she was in a lot of pain herself. Her muscles were probably very sore when she was stabbing her mother for 79 times, but she continued going. So with the comments about Ryan not being able to break down the bathroom door, I'm not quite sure what this door looked like and how stable it was in terms of perhaps trying to break the door down. But I can only imagine that in that moment there's a lot of adrenaline going through Isabella, so she's probably a lot stronger than she would normally be. And if Ryan is panicked, you know, we don't know how we react in a situation like that. You either sort of fight or flight. That's the sort of modes that you'll go between, and he could have been absolutely terrified, and you're sort of trying to think about what to do next. Instead of Ryan wasting more time trying to get the door open, he rang 911, which was the right thing to do, because if anything it was going to speed up the help that would arrive and hopefully, if possible, perhaps save Isabella's mother's life. This is definitely such a sad case, not only because Isabella's mother died, but Isabella was only 18 years old. She had a whole life ahead of her, and it seems like her mental health may have gone unnoticed, and that this mental health stigma definitely still exists around the world, and that we all need to be more attentive and concerned about people who might be suffering or dealing with some sort of mental health problem. I mean, if Isabella had gotten the help she needed, would this have been avoidable? Most recently, Isabella has asked to leave the mental institute that she is in, stating that she is no longer a threat to other people and that she is not the person that she was when she was 18. In my opinion, it seems like Isabella should continue residing in the mental institute. I'm not sure for how long or whether that should be indefinite. I think it's not only for the safety of herself but also for the safety of the public. Do you think Isabella should be eligible for release? And that is everything that I have on this case, so do let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video. Let me know if I missed anything out on my research, because this is my first one and yeah, I'm very excited. This feels good. Make sure you also let me know what you'd like me to cover on my next videos. I am very keen to see what you guys have for me. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and make sure you click on that bell notification button to get personalized notifications so that every time that I upload you will see my video pop up. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye guys!